Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to journey through the Word together, uncovering, well, its incredible insights. And today we're embarking on something that, it really feels like a sacred task. A deep dive into Genesis chapter 24. This isn't just, an old story about finding a wife for Isaac. It's this magnificent tapestry, woven with divine faithfulness, human response, showing how Yahweh himself meticulously secures his redemptive plan. It's his providence, really.
That's exactly right. And think about where it's placed. Right after the covenant promises, after Mount Moriah. It's pivotal. It feels like it's designed to prepare us, in a really deep way, for that ultimate union between his son, Yeshua HaMashiach, and his eternal bride, the Kehillah, the body of the Messiah. So our mission here is to pull out those timeless, Messiah-centered truths, but always, honoring the cultural context of the text itself.
Okay, great. Let's just jump right in then. When you first read Genesis 24, or maybe reread it recently, what was the first thing that sort of resonated? Something that maybe hit you differently this time?
What really struck me, beyond just the amazing details, was the sheer weight of that oath. Abraham's oath with his servant, putting the hand under the thigh. That wasn't just like a casual thing. It was deeply solemn, a binding covenantal act. It really underscores the gravity of the mission. And then later, you get that explicit divine confirmation, right, when Rebekah's family just says, this is from Yahweh. That's not just an offhand remark. It's a clear recognition of Elohim's direct hand.
That's a powerful point about the oath. And yeah, the family's recognition, for me, it was almost the visual scope of it. The long journey, the servant's really detailed prayer. What parts of the servant's mission, maybe before Rebekah even shows up, struck you as showing Yahweh's hand already at work?
Well, definitely like you said, the overwhelming detail of his journey and his prayer. It's so specific. And then, of course, Rebekah's courageous response, I will go. That just anchors it. Oh, and the well, the meeting place. It's such a recurring symbol, isn't it? Throughout the Tanakh, always significant. Divine encounters, new beginnings.
Yeah, definitely. Like Jacob and Rachel.
Exactly. Or Moses and Zipporah. It signals something important has happened. These aren't just random meeting spots.
Okay, so let's maybe start to unpack the narrative itself. Genesis 24, it opens with Abraham. He's old, right? Verse 1 says, Abraham was old, well stricken in age, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in all things. And he gives this huge task to his most loyal servant. Traditionally, we think Eliezer. His name means God of help. Find a wife for Isaac, but, and this is crucial, from his own kin, not a Canaanite.
Right. And that not a Canaanite part is absolutely vital. It's not just a preference. It's about preserving a pure lineage for the covenant promises. It's that principle of separation from idolatry, making sure the promised seed wouldn't be corrupted by the surrounding pagan cultures. It's less about ethnicity, really, and more about spiritual integrity, setting the stage for the holy line Messiah would come through.
That spiritual separation point is key. Okay, so the servant sets off. It's this incredible journey of faith and prayer. He gets to Nahor, quite a distance, with 10 camels, lots of gifts, stops at a well. And he prays for a very specific sign. He doesn't just ask for, a nice girl. He asks for a woman who will offer water to him, A&D, his 10 camels. Why so specific, do you think?
I think it's a fantastic object lesson for us, right? About seeking Yahweh's will, trusting his guidance. The servant isn't just sitting back. He's actively praying with real intention, real specificity. He lays out this clear, measurable request. It shows his total trust that Elohim would provide in a way that left, zero doubt. It's faith, sure, but it's also inviting that divine clarity.
And boy, does he provide. Almost instantly, Rebekah, Abraham's grandniece, shows up. And she fulfills the sign perfectly, offers water to the servant, and then offers to water all 10 camels. What does that specific act, watering the camels, tell us about her, especially in that culture?
Oh, it's huge. To really get it, you have to think about the effort involved. A thirsty camel, after a journey, it can drink, maybe 25 gallons easily. So 10 camels, that could be up to 250 gallons of water, drawn by hand, bucket by bucket. I mean, that's a Herculean task. It shows this extraordinary character, selflessness, diligence, way beyond just basic hospitality. It speaks volumes about her generous spirit, her strength, her servant heart. And then the servant, he just watches silently, right?
Yeah.
And then worships Yahweh. It's that quiet moment of, wow, you did it. Divine confirmation.
250 gallons. That's incredible. It really paints a picture. So her family hears the story, sees the gifts. Laban, her brother, is prominent here. They welcome the servant. And they quickly agree, saying what you mentioned earlier, this is from Yahweh. But it doesn't stop there. Rebekah gets a say. Her agency is important. She's asked directly, and her answer in verse 58 is just one word in Hebrew, Elek. I will go.
Yes, and Elek, I will go. It's not just, okay, sure. It powerfully echoes Yahweh's original command to Abraham back in Genesis 12, Lek Leka, go forth, run. Think about that. Abraham, the father of faith, called to step out into the unknown. Now, Rebekah, this young woman, uses that same potent covenantal word. It totally transforms her decision, doesn't it? From just a family arrangement to her own profound act of faith, a spiritual journey. It really elevates her obedience. It's personal.
Wow, that connection to Lek Leka is amazing. It adds such depth. So Rebekah leaves everything home. Family travels back to Canaan to meet Isaac, this man she's never met. The chapter ends with Isaac, who's out meditating in the field. He meets her, takes her as his wife, brings her into his mother Sarah's tent, and it says he loves her and he's comforted after his mother's death. What's the significance of bringing her into Sarah's tent, especially given Isaac's grief?
Yeah, that detail is so rich with meaning, both emotional and spiritual. Isaac's grief for Sarah was deep. It had been, 3 years? Still unresolved? The comfort he finds in Rebekah isn't just, having a companion. Jewish tradition actually holds that certain miracles associated with Sarah's presence, like the Sabbath lamp staying lit all week, a blessing on the dough, the cloud of glory over the tent, these had ceased when she died. But they returned when Rebekah entered the tent. So it signifies her stepping into that role of matriarch, restoring Elohim's manifest presence in the family home. It brought spiritual wholeness, continuity for the covenant. It was like a sign. Yahweh's blessing was now fully on her, just as it was on Sarah.
That's incredible. So much packed into just that one detail about the tent. Okay, stepping back from the plot points, what are the big overarching themes, the main messages jumping out at you from Genesis 24?
Well, the absolute central message has to be divine providence.
Right.
Yahweh actively orchestrating every single detail, fulfilling his promises through what look like, maybe ordinary events on the surface. But when you look closer, the servant's prayer, that immediate perfect answer, that's not ordinary. It's not just coincidence, is it? It's not Elohim just stepping in randomly. It's his proactive, detailed involvement. How does the way the servant retells the whole story to the family, how does that drive home that point for you, the divine orchestration?
Oh, absolutely. That repetition, the word-for-word recounting, it's not just for Laban and Bethuel. It feels like it's for us, the readers, too. To show, beyond any doubt, Yahweh's hand at work, it shows he's intimately involved, right down to the small stuff. And it kind of invites us to look for his patterns in our own lives, too. And then there's faithful obedience, of course, Abraham, the servant, Rebekah. And underlying everything is that theme of continuing the covenant, keeping that promised line pure.
Exactly. This marriage is a critical link in Yahweh's whole redemptive plan, the lineage leading to Yeshua. And the literary structure is brilliant too. That repetition you mentioned, it really hammers home the divine orchestration. It forces us to see the miraculous and maybe prepares us to recognize his work later on.
And it makes this chapter a classic example of that betrothal at the well type scene, right? That recurring pattern in the Torah. Why is that pattern significant?
Yeah, it's a recognizable literary signal. You see it and you know something major is happening. It usually involves a journey, the well encounter, a quick betrothal. It flags a key marriage, prepares for the next hero of faith, or a big covenantal step. Genesis 24 fits it perfectly. It sort of validates its divine fingerprint, shows Yahweh works in understandable patterns.
Okay, let's talk symbols. The well itself. Classic symbol for betrothal, divine encounters. It's a source of life, community, new blessings. It makes perfect sense as a spot for a divine appointment like this.
Definitely. And the 10 camels, they're not just transport. They represent Abraham's huge wealth, yes, but more than that, his covenantal blessings. The sheer abundance of Yahweh's faithfulness. And the number 10, in Hebrew thought, often points to completeness or divine order. Like the mission was fully resourced by Yahweh. And Rebekah watering all 10. Again, it's not just being nice, is it? It shows her extraordinary generosity, the depth of character Yahweh was looking for.
Right. And finally, Sarah's tent again. Isaac bringing Rebekah into that tent. It's more than just moving house, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It signifies Rebekah officially succeeding Sarah as the matriarch of the covenant line. The tent isn't just shelter. It's the sacred center, the spiritual heart of the family. Her presence there restores Isaac's wholeness, fills that void left by Sarah, and it ensures the continuity of Yahweh's presence and blessing, paving the way for the next generation.
You know, as we're peeling back all these layers, the story, the themes, the symbols, I can't shake the feeling there's something even deeper, like a divine blueprint running underneath it all. Are we seeing maybe early hints of Yeshua and his bride here? Is there a typology?
Oh, without a doubt, absolutely. The typology, Genesis 24, is profound. It points directly to Yeshua HaMashiach and his bride. Think about Abraham. He perfectly foreshadows God the Father, doesn't he? He initiates the whole search for a bride for his beloved son Isaac, just like the Father orchestrates Yeshua's redemption plan, sending his Spirit to gather his people.
And Isaac, the only son of promise, a powerful type of Yeshua. He was, in a figure, resurrected on the third day after Mount Moriah, a clear foreshadowing of Yeshua's literal resurrection.
Exactly. And Isaac patiently waiting for his bride, then loving her when she arrives. It models Yeshua's own patient waiting for the Kehillah of the church. And at Dippin, his perfect unconditional love for her. It gives us this picture of our bridegroom, eagerly anticipating our arrival.
Then there's the servant, unnamed in the text, but traditionally Eliezer, God of help, a really strong type of the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, sent on a mission far away to gather this bride. And he brings the master's gifts with him.
Yes. And notice his focus. It's entirely on glorifying Abraham and Isaac. He doesn't draw attention to himself at all. That perfectly mirrors the Holy Spirit's ministry, doesn't it? Glorifying Yeshua, pointing always to him, not seeking his own glory. And those gifts he brings, the jewelry, the valuables given to Rebekah, they're like a symbol of the spiritual gifts and blessings the Spirit gives the Kehillah. It's like a pledge. The word is arabon in Hebrew and Aramaic. It means like a down payment, an earnest guarantee of the full inheritance that's still to come, a promise of more.
That arabon concept really makes it click. And finally, Rebekah herself. What a type of the bride of Messiah, the Kehillah. She leaves her home, her family, everything familiar to follow a man she's never even seen. That parallels so beautifully the church's response to the gospel, right? Turning from the world to follow Yeshua.
Mm-hmm. Her willing obedience, based just on the servant's testimony, her journey to a new land, it represents our pilgrimage as believers, leaving the world behind, heading towards our spiritual inheritance in the kingdom. And her union with Isaac, love, comfort, finding solace, it foreshadows the marriage supper of the Lamb, that eternal joy we, as believers, will find in Yeshua. This story, ultimately, it's about you. It's about us, the Kehillah, the bride of Yeshua. That's our identity.
Wow. That really does bring Genesis 24 alive in a deeply personal way. So let's bring it home. What does this all mean for us today, as followers of Yeshua? How does this chapter encourage us to trust Elohim in our own lives, our own missions, maybe, even when things seem unclear? That servant's prayer, Yahweh's specific answer.
I think it teaches us to be specific in our prayers, doesn't it? And patient while we wait, to really trust that Elohim is actively involved, even in the tiny details. It's about seeking his will first, above our own plans, knowing he has that perfect plan, just like he did for Isaac and Rebekah.
And what about that faithful obedience, that courage? Rebekah's "I will go" is just so stark, so powerful. What does that teach us about stepping out in faith, leaving the familiar for the unknown when Yeshua calls us?
Yeah, her choice wasn't easy, leaving everything behind based on testimony. That's profound trust. It definitely challenges us, doesn't it? Where might Yahweh be asking us to leave our comfort zone, to step into something unknown, just trusting his promise? Like Abraham, like Rebekah, we're called to this journey of faith.
And how should seeing Rebekah as a type of the bride shape our daily walk, our relationship with Yeshua? How do we reflect that generosity, that character Yahweh desires in his people?
Well, if we're the bride, then our character should reflect our bridegroom, Yeshua. Rebekah's incredible generosity at the well, that kind of selfless love and service, it's exactly what Yeshua modeled. And it's what we're called to embody, striving for that same servant heart, living out the mitzvot, the commandments, in love.
And lastly, the servant's role. How does that deepen our appreciation for the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit? His work in preparing us for Yeshua, recognizing his gifts, his guidance.
The servant was completely focused on the master and the bride, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Ruach HaKodesh does the same for us, drawing us to Yeshua, equipping us with gifts for service, guiding us day by day as we wait for Yeshua's return. We need to be so much more aware, I think, of his presence and guidance in our lives, allowing him to prepare us, the bride, for our bridegroom.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, it's just so clear that Genesis 24 is way more than an ancient love story. It's incredibly rich. History, literary depth, and this profound messianic typology pointing straight to Yeshua and his beloved Kehillah. It really is like a divine blueprint for redemption.
It really is. And I'd encourage you, listening, to go back and reread Genesis 24 now, maybe with these things in mind. Look for those parallels, the servant and the Holy Spirit, Rebekah and yourself. As part of the Kehillah, it just adds so many layers of meaning.
Yeah. And maybe a final thought to ponder. As we consider Rebekah's courageous "I will go" and the servant's faithful mission, what might Yahweh be calling you to step out in faith for right now as we all wait for the return of our bridegroom, Yeshua?
As we wrap up today's study, let's just pause and reflect on what we've learned and receive the blessings of Yahweh. We look forward to delving into the next chapter with you soon on Word and Witness Podcast.